Well, hello, I'm Joanna with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching, and welcome to my Facebook Live, where we talk, where the whole theme is get your life back. It starts with sleep. Because the reality is when your child isn't sleeping, that usually means you're not sleeping, and it gets really difficult. I'm always here to do hot seat coaching for any parent out there that is seeking accurate and reliable information and to give insight and perspective on their sleep situation so that they can, come forth and get some great information and put into action. And hopefully, any challenges with their sleep is resolved through the information that I share. So, I'm pleased because Vicki D from Illinois submitted a question today for hot seat coaching. And so, Vicki D, if you are here and you want to say hello in the chat box, that would be awesome. Because I'm going to do my very best to answer some of your questions and give you that insight that you're looking for. So let me give you a little backstory on Vicki and what she's challenged with, and then I'm going to kind of talk about why she's seeing the sleep behaviors from a sleep science point of view and a behavioral science point of view, and then we'll go into some potential action plans. Oh, yay, Vicki's here. Great. I'm so glad. Great. She's here with her maiden name. Okay. I kept my maiden name. I'm Joanna Clark. So let's talk about what Vicki is experiencing. And I am sure that anyone else that is here listening who has a 2-year-old is probably having this same problem right now, or is going to have this same problem that Vicki is having. Or those of you with older children will be like, oh yeah, that happened to me, or it happened to my friend. So Vicki, what I want to say is that your situation is not uncommon. I don't want you to think that, you're like, oh no, I messed something up, or, I created this, or anything like that. Like, what's happening is quite common. So here's Vicki's story. So she has a 2-year-old daughter who she had previously sleep trained. And so she had a great sleeper and she was really enjoying life. Life was good. The child would go to sleep peacefully. She and her husband had a really pleasant personal time in the evening together. The schedule was predictable and it felt good, felt really good. So bravo. So she had, Vicki had done sleep training in the past. Although she said it was difficult because she did use the cry out methodology. She said it was difficult. She wouldn't necessarily want to do cry it out again, but she did do it. It did work. And there was a period of time when she really, truly enjoyed really great sleep with her daughter. And consequently, that allowed her to have personal time with her husband in the evening. Okay. So now her daughter's 2, and there clearly has been a regression. So what's happening now is that she is finding that she has to physically hold her child until her daughter falls asleep. And she's also finding that she's getting a lot of additional resistance at nap time. And she's even finding days where there's nap skipping, which is the worst. I mean, can we all agree that there's nothing worse than a child that has nap skipped? Because, of course, the whole nap is high drama. And then when you finally have to call it quits, they're miserable, you're miserable, and the rest of the afternoon, you just want to like fast forward and try to figure out how to get them to bed as quickly as possible because it's such a difficult time for them being cranky and needy. So I feel for you, Vicki, with nap skipping is so hard. And so Vicki's saying, this has been going on for about 2 months, this regression. And she's like, we think it's ridiculous. Like, what's going on? How can we solve this? She said, I feel so sad. It used to be that we had our evenings. We could enjoy our quiet time together. And they want to be able to like relax and clean up and connect and all the stuff that is normal, you guys. Like, it is okay to want these things. It is appropriate for children to be sleeping so that you can have some personal time before you go to bed. Like, there's nothing wrong with that desire. So Vicki, I'm glad you're saying it loud and proud because it's an important time for you to have that downtime. Okay, so so that's kind of Vicky's backstory. So let's kind of talk about what causes regressions with 2-year-olds, okay? Because it is very, very common around age 2 for families to experience a sleep regression. And so I'm going to go over kind of what causes that, and then Vicky maybe can even chime in and say, "Oh yeah, that's the thing. That's the area where we regressed." Or Vicky again, anything you else want to chime in here? I am looking at the chat. So first of all, I just want to say that when children are 2 years of age, typically they are sleeping 12 hours within a 24-hour period. So they might sleep 11 hours at nighttime and then maybe only take an hour nap, or they might take an hour and a half nap in the middle of the day and then sleep around 10 and a half hours at night. But you just want to kind of lump together what is their daytime sleep and what is their nighttime sleep. They typically average around 12 hours total in a 24-hour area. Okay. Now, what causes regressions with 2-year-olds? The first thing that pops up is separation anxiety. They kind of go through a cognitive development where they become hyper aware of your comings and goings, and they can become more possessive and more demanding because of this very normal, natural separation anxiety. And it is something that you want to attend to, but you also don't want to get stuck in it. And that's sometimes what can happen is like right around bedtime, they are like, I don't want you to go. And they start asking like, hold my hand or give me another hug or read a book. Or there's this desire of the child during separation anxiety. They want more, more, more. And because we're seeing this as a new behavior and we have compassion and empathy that they might be going through this cognitive phase, we then and still do those things, right? We hold their hand, we lay down with them, we tuck them in, we stay in their bedroom until they're falling asleep. We might even invite them into our bed during this separation anxiety time. But the key is that once they've gotten up and over that cognitive milestone, you don't want to keep maintaining those habits because then they will become embedded. Okay. The other thing that happens around 2 years of age that causes regressions is that they are also at 2, they are very much, FOMO, fear of missing out. Again, because of this cognitive development, where they become hyper aware of where you are and what you're doing and where you're going, there's this other side of separation anxiety where they just want to be with you. So they know that there's something, they think you're going to have fun when you're not in their physical presence at bedtime. And so then that kind of brings up another version of a regression, which is they start bedtime stalling, they start bedtime delaying, they start negotiating with you. There's like tantrums start to occur around bedtime. And then oftentimes in our exhaustion from handling that, we end up doing more for children at bedtime. So those are kind of the two different sides of kind of the same coin that causes us to over cater to the child and start developing new sleep crutches. Is this two versions of kind of separation anxiety. Okay. The other thing that starts to happen at age 2 is that they do kind of inherently start to do changes in their nap routines. And they also will just kind of go through like nap resisting phases. And when they are going into these nap resisting phases, it can be really difficult because, as I mentioned earlier, it's usually nap resistance is around a lot of drama. And then the child's really overtired at the rest of the afternoon. And then they're overtired at bedtime. And then they need more support going to sleep at bedtime because they're just emotionally fried, frankly. And so that kind of sets us up for, again, developing new sleep crutches at bedtime because of the nap resistance and nap skipping. And that definitely is happening to Vicky. She's definitely getting the nap skipping and the nap resisting, which then leads to super cranky child the rest of the day, which leads to a child that's more needy, which then leads to a child that is like, do something to me and for me in order for me to go to sleep. And in this case, for Vicky, what her daughter is demanding, hold me until I'm dead asleep. right? And so there she is, holding the child, probably rocking, which is probably really physical and exhausting for mom to do that. Okay, the other thing that can start to cause regressions at age 2 is their giant exploding imagination, right? So imagination is so beautiful, it's so wonderful, but on the flip side, it can cause them to have bad dreams or to be delaying bedtime because they think they see something, and then their imagination runs away with it, right? And so again, that's where they somehow were kind of drawn in to do more for them at the onset of sleep or in the middle of the night. If they've had a bad dream, we might be willing to co-sleep with them or bring them to the bed or you know um, stay in their room, hold their hand. All these that we want to do to support them when they're going through these developmental transitions. And then there's also some like logistical things that can happen when a child's 2 years of age that can trigger regressions. The first one is moving them to a boy or big girl bed too early, right? So typically a child is not really, doesn't really have the maturity level and the understanding of consequences until they're closer to 3 or 4 years of age. And so um, the big girl bed and big boy bed need to be later. If you take them there at at age 2, likelihood is that they're not mature enough to handle that, and so they will um, start needing more support in order to go to sleep because they're not really ready to take on that big giant step moving from the crib to the big girl bed or the big boy bed. Second logistical thing that can absolutely cause a regression is a new sibling. Um, big transition for any family, no matter what the age of the child, but definitely age 2. They're verbal, but they're not like can't do full sentences, and so it's kind of hard to um, understand how they're not able to verbalize to you necessarily how they are interpreting this new sibling in their life, and so they might act out, and so we might overcompensate because they were our number one baby, and now we've got this new baby to attend to. So that can absolutely cause regressions. And moving to a new home, right? Change of environment, lots of times can cause regression behavior around sleeping. And potty training. That's another big logistical reason why we will see regressions at 2 years of age. So with that being said, one thing that Vicki didn't tell me is like what she thinks triggered the regression. So Vicki, if you are here based on all of those legitimate reasons why a regression would begin. Oh, she said, okay, good. She says, I think you nailed it with the separation anxiety. Okay, let me put this up on the screen. Okay. So I asked Vicki, hey, Vicki, what, based on what I just said are the multiple reasons that cause regressions, which one is happening to you? And she said, I think you nailed it with separation anxiety, imagination dreams, no other baby. She has 2 older siblings. Okay. Yes. So, and it's real, you guys, like, so that's why I started off saying to Vicki, like, join the club. Like 2 years of age, like all this crazy stuff can happen. And honestly, I have talked to families where they have had every single one of these things happen simultaneously. They've had a new baby, they switched to the big girl bed, they moved to the new home. The child was having huge imagination, started freaking out about being in the big girl bed in the new home. They were having separation anxiety because mom was really busy with the new baby, right? And then you can only imagine like what that regression looks like, right? So, for Vicki, she's got like kind of, a 2-pronged trigger point, but it could be worse, right, Vicki? So again, normal, but what we need to do is just get honest with ourselves that we are indeed in a regression, right? Because until we say to ourselves, and this is what happens a lot. So families will kind of, one of these, situations I just mentioned will kind of come online. They'll start to notice that bedtime's getting a little harder, but they're kind of willing to do the things they know they shouldn't be doing just because it's faster, easier. or they don't think it's going to get embedded. Like they'll just deal with it this week, or they'll just let them do it this week and they'll deal with it next week. Right. And then all of a sudden 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by, 3 months goes by. And then that is now your new reality. So what I always tell my clients when I work with them, if you are seeing regression behavior for any reason, call me within 2 weeks and I will help you unwind it. Because the longer we let that behavior settle in, the harder it is to reverse it. And, again, like her child had sleep trained, her child did have beautiful sleep skills. They had a really predictable, beautiful routine. And then it kind of crumbled. And then now they've lived 2 months with like, right? So just kind of have that in the back of your mind. Like regressions happen. Don't let them go on for more than 2 weeks. Definitely no more than a month if you can help it. And don't be afraid to reach out for help, because sometimes you can't figure it out and you want to be able to figure it out quick. So asking for help is perfectly normal, which is why I do these Facebook Lives, so that I can hot seat coach some families so that they can get really good information and be able to solve it gracefully and easily. And so now I'm going to get into some problem solving with you. Okay, so I'm assuming, Vicki, that your darling girl is still in her crib. I'm hoping you say yes. And really what you're probably going to have to do, Mom, is you're probably have to do some sleep training around this new behavior, because the reality is that your daughter has developed the hold sleep crutch. She, definitely wants somebody to do something to and for her at the onset of sleep. So remember, a sleep crutch is anything that has to be done to or for a child at the onset of sleep at bedtime. They will want some version of that support at every arousal cycle all night long. Okay. So right now for Vicki, her child wants her to hold to sleep. Now, right now, it might only be that Vicki just has to hold for forever at bedtime, and maybe her child's sleeping through the night. But I can tell you that once a sleep crutch gets embedded at the onset of sleep, it is inevitable that the child is going to start asking for that same sleep crutch or some version of it in the middle of the night at their partial arousals. And then they're going to start asking for that same support around nap time. It is inevitable. So Vicki, maybe you could let me know if you're starting to have to hold her in the middle of the night to get her back to sleep, or she's asking for some other version of support in the middle of the night, and also if she's demanding you to hold her at nap time. That would be helpful to me. So, but for now, until I hear from Vicki, I'm just going to assume that the sleep crutch that got embedded is just bedtime only. That is better, because that means that we only have to handle that one behavior. Yes, because I just have to hold her in the middle of the night. I'm sorry, Vicki. Okay, so Vicki just said, yes, I do have to hold her in the middle of the night, upside down, smiley face, sad face. Okay, there it is, right? So it probably started with holding at the onset of sleep, and then she was probably still sleeping through the night. And now all of a sudden she's holding at the onset of sleep, and now she wants to be held in the middle of the night. So Vicki, we're definitely going to have to go do some sleep training. Now, Vicki said that she's done right out at the beginning, and she doesn't want to do that again. I totally understand. So you do not have to do a cry it out. And with 2-year-olds, sometimes that doesn't work very well because they're already in a very demanding state with the separation anxiety. But I would dedicate, I would kind of, knowing that you're in a family of, 3 children, two adults, you got a family of 5. I think you need to set aside at least 2 weeks when you're not traveling and you don't have guests and you don't have a lot of commitments or birthday parties or anything that might be coming up into your life that will derail you from being ultra consistent with your daughter at bedtime and in the middle of the night. You're also, depending on the age of the other siblings, you'll probably want to have a family meeting where you really talk about that you're going to be making sleep a priority, that you guys are going to be doing dinner earlier, and that the schedule kind of from dinner until the time that that child, I don't know your daughter's name, but separates to go to bedtime is like very smooth and calm and easy, and that everybody in the family unit is kind of in unified order, so that nobody is delaying you from being successful and helping your daughter. Um, Great. She says, I can totally do that. My boys are actually great sleepers. So awesome. So, but I still think it's so important to kind of do this family meeting concept, because you want that 2-year-old to feel like something's not being done to her. Because again, we got to remember that they're 2 years of age, and they kind of want to feel like they are in charge. And so if it's like, hey guys, we're going to make some family changes. And, you just kind of build this anticipation so that she knows what the first day of sleep of the new order is, right? Because if you just randomly start this tonight, like, she's not going to be successful. You won't be successful. It will be high drama. So ahead of time, family meeting, ahead of time, talking to her how you are going to help her sleep in her. Okay. And you might want to, Vicki, you might want to just get this book, Good Night, Sleep Tight by Kim West. This is the newest version. And I'm going to recommend, I do not telling you have to read the whole book. Okay. What I'm recommending is you read pages, I think it's page 12 and 13, which is the whole concept of your role as a coach and what the tiers that you might be experiencing with your daughter. And then I want you to read the 2-year-old section, because I believe that you would be successful based on what you're telling me is happening. I believe you would be successful in doing the Sleep Lady Shuffle. But I'm going to encourage you to modify it a little bit, so that, because your child definitely has the skills of sleep. Okay, so let's review what the skills of sleep are. In order to sleep independently, a child has to be able to go into the crib drowsy but awake, 5 or 6 on the drowsy scale. So 1 is your child's wide awake, 10 is your child's dead asleep. They want to go into their crib 5 or 6 on the drowsy scale, so that she can regulate, settle, and soothe herself all the way down to Dreamtown without anybody doing anything to and for her. Okay. Because you had sleep trained her before, she does have those 3 foundational sleep skills: regulate, settle, and soothe. She just has forgotten how to use them under the new circumstances. So you want to, the reason why Lady Shuffle is going to work for you is because she already has those foundational skills, and we just need to create the right circumstances and the right environment for her to remember how to use them. And so when you, the modification I'm going to recommend from the book is that I would only spend 2 nights in each location. So 2 nights by the crib, 2 nights in the middle of the room, 2 nights by the door, 2 nights outside the door, 2 nights door closed. And this will all make sense when you review this, because with 2-year-olds, you can sometimes get stuck in the room. And because she's demanding of you right now to hold her, what will happen if you stay in one position too long, she'll stand at the crib and say, no, you sit there. And she'll get really demanding about that new location that you're willing to sit in. And then when you try to move out of the room, she's going to get really, really mad, and you'll feel like you have to start all over. So you've got to read the chapter on how to do the shuffle with a 2-year-old, so that you can start to better understand the mindset and the different kind of curveball zones that can sometimes happen with 2-year-olds. And that's why I'm recommending that you don't stay there longer than 2 nights per position. And I would even say that you probably want to be out of the room no more than 6 nights. Like, you want to be 2 nights in each position, then out the room. And you might even end up being only in the room for like 4 or 5 nights, because you could easily get stuck in the room based on her wanting to be held. The other thing is that the coach that's going to do the training needs to be the same person for both bedtime and in the middle of the night, and have that same coach be that coach all the way until you're successfully out of the room and she's going back to sleep at bedtime independently. Then I'm going to challenge you to switch caregivers and have that new caregiver take on the role from, you know, putting them, doing the whole bedtime routine, putting them in the bed and walking out, and having it be like the good old days when you guys had a nice evening together. Um, because sometimes if you have a 2-year-old and you only have one parent coach them and you're successful, and you don't integrate that second caregiver within the first 2 weeks of that new routine, then the 2-year-old gets stuck only wanting that original caregiver to do bedtime. And then you end up with another problem, which is what I call the mommy preference, which is the child only wants, you know, mom to do bedtime. And now all of a sudden mom is stuck always being home at bedtime, when we want flexibility with a 2-year-old. We want to build flexibility because they can become very rigid and demanding, right? So we want it to be that mom does the training, we switch over to dad, we make sure dad can be as equally consistent with the daughter, and then you want to flip-flop, like one night's mom, one night's dad, mom, one night's dad, and you make sure it continues to be smooth sailing. So then that opens up the opportunity for date night, right? Which of course is COVID, so it's really hard to do that. But you can see why sleep training isn't just about solving the immediate problem. What we want to also build is predictability and flexibility in your family routines, so that under all conditions your child can be successful. Okay. And so she wrote, I would do the first week, for example, and my husband would do the second part. Yes, that would be true. And then once it's equally successful with dad doing it, then I want you guys to flip. One night dad, one night mom, one night dad, one night mom, and do that for a week. And then once you've done that, you know you're good, right? So if you think of it that way, you'll probably be 1 week on mom, really cleaning up the sleep crashes that got there. Second, 5 to 7 days, dad, making sure that everything that you just put in place stays consistent with him as a caregiver. The third week would be you guys flipping back and forth and making sure it's equally consistent. Now, of course, mom, you'll have to get really clear with yourself when you're evaluating your sleep plan and your strategies, which are going to be listed here in the book, that you're nailing your daughter's sleep window. Because sometimes even being off by 5, 10, 15 minutes, your child will protest more. So you've got to go kind of back to basics and ask yourself, okay, my daughter is now 2 years of age, and on the days she naps, she wakes up at, let's say, 2 o'clock. A child that's 2 years of age will typically not be awake any longer than 4 to 5 hours from afternoon nap to bedtime. But the question you have to ask yourself is, okay, well, is my daughter best? Do our nights go smoother when she's asleep within 4 hours, or asleep within 4 hours and 20 minutes? Or asleep within 4 hours and 45 minutes that afternoon nap wake up? Because if you can start paying attention to that even before you start your night one coaching, I think it's going to help you in your strategy when you're in your room, so that you can reduce the frustration and tears. The other thing I would recommend is that to be really careful not to get into power struggle when you're sleep training a 2-year-old. So you'll have to be very clear on your strategy about when you're going to touch, when you're going to pick up, when you're going to talk or not talk, right? So because all those things can land you in overstimulating your daughter, and or also getting into power struggle, and then that's going to just be you and her battling it out in the sleep training mode, which is not what we want, right? I'm a gentle sleep coach, so there's lots and lots of tips in here that will address that. So Vicki, I think you're going to be really successful. I've given you a ton of information to kind of set you on the right path, and to have the references in through here to kind of give you some more of the nuts and bolts, I think would be really helpful. Of course, if you get stuck, Vicki, please contact me on my website. You can go to blissfulbabysleepcoaching.com to the contact me page, and we can schedule a call, because you will know within the first 3 nights if your plan is making progress or if you're got stuck in that power struggle overstimulation zone, in which case no learning happens down there. And so that's the other thing, you guys. Sometimes you can't, by the third or fourth night, you will know, am I making progress or am I not? And if you're not, it doesn't mean your child can't learn. It doesn't mean that you did it wrong. It just means that the approach that you're using isn't matching what your child needs. In which case we have to kind of hold back, reevaluate, and make sure we have all the pieces of the puzzle in alignment to create that optimal learning environment and circumstances for her. Because honestly, you guys, families come to me and say, I don't think my child's ever going to sleep. I mean, I've had families, 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 2-year-olds, and you can always solve a sleep problem, always, because we use science, sleep science, behavioral science, attachment theory, circadian rhythms. It's awesome. We have the tools to be successful. So Vicki, I'm totally here to support you. So if you run into anything, don't hesitate to reach out. And Vicki just wrote, you were awesome. I'm so glad I was able to help you today. This is my passion. I love talking about sleep. And moreover, I love helping moms out of sticky situations so that she can get her life back. That's why I call this Get Your Life Back. It starts with sleep. And you guys, I love doing hot seat coaching. So, don't hesitate to reach out. In fact, I will put down in the comments here. Okay, Vicki, I want to make sure while I'm putting down here how people can be hot seat coached in the future. If you have any other questions, thoughts, just pop those in and I can answer that for you as best as I can before I go. And then of course, anyone here that is listening to the replay, you can absolutely type in hashtag replay and ask a question. And then I can, go back in here and answer that for you. Let's see here. Okay. So I think I think Vicki's good. She says, I'm awesome. Thank you, Vicki, for the compliment. I'm so glad I was able to help you. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And yes. Okay. She wants a copy of my website. So let me give that to you. Yeah. There on my website, there is a section. Oops, goodness gracious. What's happening here, guys? Sorry. Oh, no. I don't know if I am still live. Okay. Sorry, guys. I got kicked out. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Sorry.
I got kicked out.
Okay. Sorry. I got kicked out.
Okay, I'm going to go doubling up. Bye.